Good day, everyone. Welcome wherever you are, all over the world, to the 44th edition of the Issues Room, a presentation here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the Issues Room page. We come your way on Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and midnight GMT, wherever you are, depending on your time zone and the continent you find yourself. Volcano Shelton here this evening with you. We have a full house, expected to have a good conversation. The conversation centers around the just delivered State of the Nation's address in Liberia by President George Weah to the fifth session of the 54th National Legislature. Someone asked me, said, why this late? And I said, no, it's news. Sometimes it's not who rushed to, dissect the news. It has to do with proper research and proper planning. And so we wanted to make sure that we got it right. And that's why Moses and myself decided that we'll delay, let everyone else run with the story, and then we'll come back and give it a different spin. That's why we are the alternative. Good evening, Moses. Welcome.
Thank you, Volcano. Let me say hats off to our many viewers and listeners in the United States and other parts of the world. It is pleasing to be back in the issues room and fully energized to come and be a part of this very, very important discussion this evening. I know we have come with a lot of stories, a lot of critical issues to talk about. So, Volcano, it is pleasing to be back in the issues room.
Thank you, Moses. We want to quickly acknowledge some of those folks in the audience. If you're there, please come in the chat room. Let us know you're here. We have a little technical issue here tonight, Moses.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very important for us to be very, very critical and careful. There was just a little clip that came in my page, which I didn't go looking for. And it had to do with a little young boy, probably 2-year old, that was posted on Facebook. He's naked and he was talking about what he did. And that information was shared. And apparently Facebook felt that I was sharing something of obscenity regarding a child, which I had no knowledge of. And it came on my page. And so I just turned in and they said that I am, blocked.
Oh my God.
For 72 hours. So interestingly, these kinds of things happen. But you see other things of vulgarity all on social media, and they don't particularly look at those things. Somebody sent something to my page, and now
you have to live with that.
So unfortunately, our Facebook segment is not going through my page, but the Facebook segment on the issues room page is accepted. Because it was not the issues room that shared it. It was Volcano Shelton who had that unfortunate situation. But also, we are on YouTube Live and on Twitter. So that's good. So this broadcast will commence. Moses, anything quick, just one trending news before we roll, because we got a lot to cover here today, and let's be very, very brief.
Yes. The most important news of the day is the situation with Mr. Azif Tuba, the former chief of staff to the Alternative National Congress political leader, standard bearer, Alexander Cummings. I say Mr. Azif Tuba His former chief of staff told Mr. Cummins because Mr. Tuba has resigned. Mr. Cummins requested his resignation today after news broke about a publication, a memoir published by Mr. Tuba and another Liberian, another US based Liberian. In that publication, Mr. Tuba and his co author in chapter 13 wrote something very disparaging about the private life of President George Manuel Weah and First Lady Clara Weah. He wrote things that I am not prepared to delve
Yeah, yeah.
into because we
Just
we're not
saying.
here for that. So Mr. Tuba has resigned his position. The Liberian government, through the Minister of Justice, through the Minister of Gender, Piso City Tar, has announced that they will seek legal remedy. The government condemned the publication. The traditional women of Liberia, led by Liberia's cultural ambassador Judy Andy, have also spoken against what was published by Mr. Tuba and his co-author. Several Liberians at home and abroad have condemned Mr. Tuba for his publication, and they send a very strong message to others who may be thinking about doing similar thing for Canada. So far, that's the top news of the day.
Thank you, Moses. And in fact, the co-author and I spoke very recently, and he has committed to appear in the issues room this Friday, um, because he said that this is an important moment and it has to be discussed. And he will be here. He committed to be here
Okay.
in the issues room this Friday, meaning the co-author, not Mr. Tuba, but the
Yeah.
co-author will
We
be
look
here in the
forward to
issues room.
we look forward to Emmanuel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Again, we're here to discuss the annual address of President Weah. President Weah, met with the legislature on the 24th of January, um, as customary, which is, in law that he
Mhm.
must address the National Legislature annually, to give the state of the nation's, where the state of the nation is settled for that year. And this presentation was for 2021. He presented his annual address to the fifth session of the 54 National Legislature. Article 50 of the Liberian Law National Constitution mandates that the president, on the fourth working Monday in January of each year, will present the legislative body and of the administration work throughout the year. Um, and of course, he covered the economy, and other areas of expenditure and income within his presentation. Today, we want to cover grounds. We want to look at the speech. Um, we want to look at the facts, and we want to look at what was put in just to make the president looks good, or the economy look good, or the country looks good. So we have an array of important Liberians. I'll put it that way. One of those people here who are coming in tonight as guests is Constance Duopu. Mrs. Constance Duopu is the chairperson for CDC-USA, which means that she represents the government of Liberia. We also have another uh, Liberian who is a member of the Liberty Party, and he has been around for a while. And in fact, at this point, he is coming in his own capacity because of the current situation with the Liberty Party within the CPP and all of that. But he thought it was important to honor our invitation and be here tonight because he felt that this is of Liberia, it's national. Mr. Phillip Suah Jr. is in the house. And we also have Mr. Dean Eugene Wilson. He formerly served as uh, managing director for the Forestry Development Authority in Liberia at one point, and he's been a contributor in the issues room and a guy who is very researched. And we'll also have Phillip Suah, who will be coming momentarily. Let me welcome first the lady. We always give the lady the opportunity to be first. Uh, Mrs. Duopu, good evening. Welcome to the issues room
Thank
the
you.
second time around. It's good to have you in here. Could you just tilt your camera towards? There you go. All right, looking good now. Thanks for honoring our invitation. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Volcano Shelton and Moses Sandy. It is a pleasure to be here tonight to talk about our dynamic president and all that he has done over the years. So I'm honored to be here representing my institution and as a Liberian.
Thank you, Mr. Phillip
Welcome,
Suah.
Constance.
Mr. Phillip Suah,
Oh
welcome to
yeah,
the issues
thank
room
you.
second time around.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it, and nice to meet you, Constance. Thank you for participating as well.
Thank you, Mr. Swai, and
Mr.
welcome.
Eugene Dean Wilson, not a stranger to the issues room. Thanks for honoring our invitation. Welcome.
Volcano and my dear brother Moses, is always a pleasure to be with you guys. The issues room is unfolding, is growing. You guys are doing a superb job, and for the first time, Philip, it's an honor and I guess to be with you on the shore, Liberty Party, right?
Yes, thank you,
And my
Dean.
dearest sister, who tutored the president, Madam, how are you? Ms. Duopu,
I'm doing
it's
great,
an honor to be with
excited,
you.
even though we came under a serious attack today. But I'm excited to be here and to speak to any issue concerning my political institution and what is trending in the news today, Mr. Abatoba, who having to be our former chairman, but he's not anymore. I'm glad he did it when he is not. And Liberian people get to see who he is. Finally.
Okay.
Ms.
All
Duopu,
right.
before you came in, Volcano, I wanted to say to you that in a special way, it's an honor to meet you, but you are in a very unfriendly territory because I'm not on your side, but it's a pleasure to be on the same platform with you. And then there's Liberty Party, you are CDC, I'm Liberian only on the platform. It's an honor to be with you guys.
Thank you. You know, it's good to be in these territories because they kind
Okay.
of, we kind of
I'm
hear
shooting
this.
fire. I'm shooting fire already, right? Volcano, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
I like that.
you wait
it's
till
gonna be
I
hot
get
tonight. It's gonna
started.
be hot
You
tonight.
wait.
All
You
right.
wait till I get started. But it's a pleasure and honor. I'm glad to meet you and that we
Yes,
will
man.
deliberate on the issues.
Same
That's
here.
all.
Same
Thank
here.
you. Let's kick the ball. I think the greetings and salutations sufficient now.
I know,
So
right?
let's get things started. So the president's rather national
Annual
address
message.
to the nation.
Mhm.
Uh, he mentioned, especially if some of you here tonight will talk about the income issue, income expenditure, which has to do with the budget. He said that the government raised $646 million in 2021 as compared to the previous year of 2020 when the government raised 65.39 million dollars in
No,
2020.
no,
Uh,
Volcano.
yeah,
Quickly. In 2020, the government raised 653 million, more than $653 million.
that's
That's
what I
what it
just
raised
said.
in
That's what I just
2020.
I
Oh,
said.
really?
2021, the government raised 646 million,
Yeah.
and in
In
2020,
2020, yeah,
the government raised
653.
653.9 million.
Yeah,
That's what I
you're right.
said. I
Oh,
believe
okay.
I think there's statics going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Just handle that component.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
don't know.
Go ahead. I will handle that.
There's a
Just
lot
go
of
ahead.
echoes in the background. I don't know
That one
where this
said,
coming
go
from.
ahead and just handle this component, the income and expenditure. Go ahead, talk about it.
Okay.
let me try to
So,
rectify this.
okay. So, anyone following the annual message, the president reported that the government generated 646 million US dollars generated, and they spent the 646 million dollars. He reported that what they raised for 2021 was a little bit lower than what they actually generated in 2020. And he attributed the situation to COVID. And we all understand that COVID-19 is a global problem and it has affected the world's economies. According to President Weah, in terms of domestic taxes, the government raised $577 million. From international support development partners, the government received $68 million. Of that money, the government spent 44%. 44% of the $646 million was used for compensation. 25% of that money was also used for goods and services. That's what the president reported. The government also used 17% of the money raised in 2021 on domestic and international debt. On public sector investment, government claimed to have used 5% of its income. Now, the questions that most people are asking is the government claimed to have made all of these investments, all of the expenditures, but the cost of living in the country, the inflation for Canada. You want to comment on that?
No, let's look at those.
Yes.
Let's look at
So,
those numbers first.
and let's begin with the chair. Madam Chair, your government raised $646 million, and it claimed that it used that money and for goods and services, compensation, and all of that. What the government reported, does it really reflect the realities in the country? Is she there? We're not hearing
Yeah,
her.
she's there.
Thanks
Go
for
ahead,
you.
Constance.
Mhm.
Can you hear
Go
me
ahead.
now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I said definitely our president is no other person who goes and fabricates story. His life is right out there. He been a celebrity. You, Mr. Moses Sandy and Volcano Shelton, sit here in America, the United States, have people call you and give you information that you cannot even ascertain. Why? Because more people that will call you are asking, begging, so they will fabricate stories. If you go to Liberia, as you know, Liberia, the economy after the war, the country, Monrovia is populated. That's one thing. Liberia was not heaven like people make it to seem before the Civil War or before President Weah ascendancy to the presidency. So the figures that the president presented to you are the true picture, and you and I know that you can see in Liberia, you have a lot of youth that are climbing the social ladders. You go to Liberia, you see a lot of people building houses. Why it is true things are hard, but because the economy is doing well. That's why nobody will be hungry, will go and start constructing. Nobody will be that hungry, will go and start building homes. The first thing you think about your shelter. And so, with that being said, I can tell you that people that even went to Liberia in December saw it, they came back. Am I saying they are not different challenging? They are challenging, but the figure that the president reported, they are true. You can see from the economy, you can tell.
Madam Jopu, I would like to comment quick because what you just said here, because people are building, it doesn't mean it's the ordinary Liberian people who are building. There's support coming through the diaspora. A lot of diaspora Liberians all over the world are the ones really building. If the few who are building are the ones who are pillaging the country's economy, who are pillaging the country's finance, and it's very, very visible. I've been to Liberia. I will be there soon, if not later. And for you to sit here and say that, that speaks, the truth. When we have more than a million young people who are just all over the place, considered now to be at risk youth. Honestly, Dean, Philip, one of you can come in and make a case here on that point
Can
I'm
I
putting forth.
inject something because you brought that to my attention? You said, Mrs. Duopu. So let me
No,
speak to that.
I was just trying to
You were
remind
just
you of what you said.
clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
So you're coming. Let the
okay.
other two gentlemen come in. Philip.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so thank you. I listened. I mean, I read the president's message. I didn't have the opportunity to listen in real time. So with respect to the uh, the revenues that were generated, I'm not going to contest it. I'm going to take whatever is written in this report at face value and evaluate the budget as a whole. In my opinion. So raising revenue is good. I think we need to increase revenues to gain access to what we need, right, for our country. But raising revenue alone is not the solution, right, to some of the crises in our country. It's what you do with the funds that you have. How are you spending the dollars in a way that fits the needs of the people? So if you look at the budget, one of the things that I looked at was the compensation of employees, right? Um, that is relatively high to other nations around the world who are doing well. Excuse me. Now, I'll give you some of those numbers here. And if you look at what the numbers were, I think 44% last year. The projection this year is about 45.3%. That's going to compensation. So
Compensation. Yeah.
ideally, you want that number to go down, right? Because our government is top heavy on compensation. There are a lot of the other countries. If you look at, and I got some numbers that I pulled up from, just a cursory research of some of the countries in the world that are doing well. Right? So if you look at, and I'm going to go a few countries all over. If you look at Australia, right, their compensation relative to the budget is 10%. Canada 10%. So these are countries that we know of are doing well. Burkina Faso, their percentage is 49%. Botswana, 50%. Poor countries in the world. Rwanda, another African country that's doing better, they're 17%. South Africa, 13.9%. Spain, 6.6%. Togo, 39%. Another struggling country. Tanzania, that's also doing better, 20.9%. And closer to home, Ghana is at 35.6%. So if we look at long term, right? If we look at the benefit of managing this budget effectively, so the money that's generated, whether it's higher in 2020 than 2021, and how are we using that money to add value to the average Liberian? Raising compensation to employees is not the solution to the country long term, right? There are a lot of issues in our country that needs to be solved. And if you look at, you know, uh, the debt, even in the report that the president read, look at our debt. When President Weah came into power, the debt that he inherited from the last administration was around 874 million, 874.4 to be exact. So that was the debt when he came in, right? In the president's budget, this budget that was read here not long
Yeah.
ago,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
2021 budget.
his 2021 budget states that the current debt now is about 1.6 billion. So that's a tad bit under doubling the debt rate in the 4 years he's been there. Now, all countries have debt, right? Countries need debt just like businesses. You need some debt to do certain things that you need to do. What we don't see is the value that's added to the average Liberian relative to that big jump in the debt, right? From 874 million to now 1.69 billion dollars of debt with very little to show for it. So I think, if you look at, if my personal opinion of the budget and what I think would help us long term in our country is if we took the resources, whether it's an increase in revenue or if we work on the expenditure side of the budget to reduce unnecessary spending, we can take the excess money and invest it in a working class, in the skill sets for a future working class. Right now, we don't have opportunities in the country for a lot of jobs. It's true, but if we start to invest savings from the budget into building the skill sets of Liberians, then when those opportunities come up, we'll have a working class that's already trained to fill those vacancies. So those are some of the things that I saw in the budget, and I'll give Dane a chance to speak his piece as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Relatively
Wilson.
speaking,
Mhm.
thanks a lot again. Suah, that was very, analytical. And my dear sister Duopu, if I reference what was asked by Volcano was apparently even with the increase in debt from 800 million to 1.6 billion, that is accrued liability that future governments will have to pay. The question was, and I want to go directly to responding, is how has that impacted the lives of Liberia?
Mhm.
One of the challenges that this government has not solved is that there's a cyclical effect with the budgeting. And I think Philip may have alluded to it. What happens is, look at the crisis unfolding, just slapping numbers in, having a template, overhead in terms of salaries, expenditures, has not much to show with how the budget itself is performing. I think what I really wanted to add it to is, wow, is this budget really performing? We have a youth population at risk, and it goes directly to what Philip is saying. Uh, we have had incidents with the Zogos. We have no planning. We have no rehabilitation. The unemployment rate is extremely high. What is being divested in education, in agriculture? What this 800 million you've accrued, what is the relative benefit to the livelihood of ordinary Liberians, the ones in Newtown, Jarlaton, West Point? So those people who are supposed to be hope, what is it, the pro-poor agenda. So a budget that does not handle the impending crisis, even with the youth population, and the citizen rate is hopeless, jobless, there's not even any tangible field, then there's a lapse in terms of what this government is going. And I want to take a shot at something else. If you look at that budget, you may have heard these new pickups that have the president's name assigned to others. And there's a campaign component of that budget, about 100 million, that is being divested into projects. I used to be County Development Fund. Now I know we're going to 2023 and we are having campaigns, but you take a huge component of the budget, 1/7, and it's been expended through the president's office, and it's everything George Weah, everything is electioneering, everything is going that route. If I were to answer this directly, Volcano, and in contrast to what Mana Duopu is saying, the average Liberian has not felt that impact. We've increased the debt, we've increased expenditure, the budget is cyclical, it doesn't address even the national security crisis, the impending crisis with the police, logistics, law and order, people feeling safe, people having opportunities. But that whole concept of budgeting is being questioned, under the pro-poor agenda. If you will divest 800 million, let it be resourced into training our youths, helping the Zogos, empowering the police force, more logistics, more law and order, reducing crime, giving the agriculture sector more. If you look at the four tangible areas, the most critical areas of the economy, which is health, education, national security, you understand, right? Let's just look at that. Food security, national security, health, education, the percentages driven out of the budget for those key sectors is practically negligible. What the president takes 100 million and to do what? I mean, to put forth and then look at the percentage. I think it's about 83%, if I'm right. In terms of payroll, you have the numbers. In
About
terms of what the House gets, what
yeah.
the president's office gets, what the speaker gets, the deputy, the legislative branch. I think they may have scrapped out the 30,000 from the budget this time around when Dillon kind of like provoked the situation and the president pro tem saw a reason not to include it. So if I were answering your question in contrast to Madam Duopu, I think there's much more to be done. The budget is bloated with expenditures and is personally driven by this president. And the condensed benefits, frankly, I will have to say, is filled in terms of meeting the constant needs and the crisis of Liberian people. And the sad thing to end on that is that I don't want to put onto other platforms, Mr. Volcano, but people are giving this president a B plus, a B minus on the budget, the economy. My best grade can be best a D in the expenditure and an F for national security. And I would stop there. And I'm being very generous with that.
Hold on, Moses.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Constance?
Duopu.
Yes.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
I think the
Mr.
echo
Dean.
is coming from your room because you're in a space. I believe so, but just go ahead. We'll manage with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Dean and Mr. Swai, let me say this to you. It is unfortunate that at this point in time in 2022, you cannot even identify or acknowledge the efforts that this president and the government has made when it comes to road connectivity. When you talk about development in an old country like Liberia, you talk about agriculture, you talk about education, the entire country is now Morovia. This president, during his campaign, he promised the Liberian people two major things. And those two components were roads, connectivities, and good health. He will focus on agriculture. Every other thing involves around road connectivity. And what will a road do for a country like Liberia? Good roads will improve our economy. Bridges. You listen to the president's speech. He
What's the
talked
bridge
about
that?
well, listen.
You know, don't call breaches now.
Wait. I am from Sino County. There was a
Okay.
bridge, the only good bridge that is in Sino County. I think it was built, I don't know how long. That bridge is beyond, but people are using it. And there is more money in that budget to repair that bridge. No government has done that. The president took the initiative to do it. Liberia is as old as what? There is no roads in our country. So if you hear you are only focusing, you say, oh, the youth population, talk about the number of students or people that are graduating from college. The only employment opportunity is government. And so government expenditure will increase. If you want to cut down on corruption, you have to pay people well. That's one way. You are in America, you work, they pay you. The highest employment sources in Liberia is government. So you cannot divorce that from the budget when you talk about compensation. Who absorbs all the college graduates? Government. Private entity, yes, but the bulk of people who are employed in Liberia are employed by government.
And it shouldn't be that way if the government
So,
put mechanisms in place.
What I am saying, it shouldn't be that way. I'm not saying, but I'm telling you when it comes to compensation, you are talking about compensation, you talk about corruption, you talk
But,
about
but,
hold
but
on.
let me just add this quick so
and
you know that. I'm coming
yeah,
with
yeah, sure.
this president expanded the government.
Of
He
course
didn't
he
have
did.
to. In
They
fact,
did.
Yes, he did.
there are credible information that positions that should be enacted through the legislature, he was trying to create more positions, and some of those positions helped brick walls because there were the oppositions in the legislature said no. So everybody's being hired by the same government, partisans getting job, and so the government is bloated.
Volcano, you will be doing a disservice to this government when you say the government, even if this government that even reduce, that went about to reduce salary when you hire your MBA president who were giving ministers 15,000, 18,000, depending on the relationship you have. It was this government, this president, who said no, it cannot be. That brought the harmonization that people were complaining about, and today they are benefiting. So to tell you the truth, those that graded the president and said he scored B, if I was grading the president, I would tell you the president scored A plus.
Okay, so Madam Chair, Madam Chair, let me just come in a little bit. And honestly, based on the analysis provided by Mr. Suah, Mr. Wilson, you, Madam Chair, and my colleague of Volcano, if you take a critical look at what is obtaining in Liberia, I will agree with Mr. Suah and Mr. Wilson that to this Liberia, what the president reported does not reflect the reality. I say it doesn't reflect the reality because in a society where you spend 44% of your annual income on compensation of government officials, when you have schools in shambles, healthcare institutions are underperforming, everything seems to be crumbling. How do you justify that? National security. The
And
police
Moses,
is ill equipped,
Moses,
understaffed. Yes.
let me add to this,
Yeah.
because when he
Mm-hmm.
talked about economic growth,
Mm-hmm.
despite the COVID, the economy reportedly grew by 3.6%
Mm-hmm.
from a negative 0.3% in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So where is that growth if the economy is shy of $7.9 million? Because
Yes.
if you look at the disparity in the figures here, the budget passed in 2021 was 646
Yeah.
million. All right, the one prior to that was 653.9. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a $7.9 million here
So
that
then
will
where's
fall
the growth?
short.
Where's
So
the
then how
growth?
can this year, or this previous year rather,
Mm-hmm.
be better than the
Yeah,
year
as
before,
compared to
and you're
before.
attributing it to COVID?
It
But
doesn't add
the
up.
book doesn't reflect those realities because the hyperinflation in prices of goods and services, extreme poverty, high employment rate, lack of industrialization, hundreds of thousands of at-risk youth, lack of basic incentives, a dark country at night with rationed electricity, irregular payments of salaries. Even the salaries they're talking about, these people go on strike. Nurses go on strike, teachers go on strike, all of this. And a fecund of serious corruption in the country. So,
Absolutely.
gentlemen,
Mr.
madam, what is it?
If I may chime in, and this is not just, and I will be in a way fair with Madam Duopu and her party, the CDC party. This is, and Philip, this is not just a weird government budget. This is
True,
cyclical. When I say
true.
cyclical, is a carryover. I think there's this concept with Tua and his economic team that we got a template, and we just fill it in. No matter which direction the country is going, if
And I
Rome is
think I think
burning,
he's the problem. He just gave this young
no, no,
man
I'm
evening
not
to
going to
read.
blame it. When they think
Yeah.
of budget, Philip, if you look at a budget, is a live document
Of
that
course.
should intensely go towards addressing the challenges of today's problems, Liberia's problems today, the society's problem. If there's a crisis in the health sector, the budget must go to it. If there's a
Yeah.
crisis in the youth population, the budget has to look at it. In the
Right.
in the education sector, no benches, no schools. But the impression I get, Philip, is that, and I'm saying to Philip, because don't feel isolated, but the impression I gather is that this is a carryover. Same 12 years, Madam Salih. We got a template, we got a minister, we got an economic council. We put in the numbers. The president office get a percentage. The House Speaker gets one. All the legislators does. Rome is burning. There's no healthcare in Nikutan, Jalaka, and West Southern Point. No schools. There's teachers broken. There's different things going on, but everybody has vested interest. The president gets his allocation. The speaker gets his. And this is not just a George Weah problem. We need a living budget that addresses the day-to-day challenges of a government, not a template 12 years ago that's taken over 4 years by George Weah. And the president protects this. And let me tell you where the insult is added, Philip and Madam Duopu, is that how do you really justify $100 million? You know, what used to be, abrogated for the county development fund now is slapped into the president's office, right? As the president's projects, promoting the Weah, the president Weah. The optics is not really right. So my only thing I can say that's somewhat in there when you heard Philip talk about, those percentages, and we're taking on it doubling the debt. That a portion 800 million that you've added, where is it going? How is it impacting the health sector? And she says the government is the main employer. Okay, fine. What are the opportunities, cooperatives in farming you're developing in agriculture? Are you bringing the Zocos together? Are you bringing the health sector together? Look, what opportunities are being created by that 800 million? It's not visible. You can't see it.
Yeah, so and I agree with what Dean is saying, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the budget. When you talk about change, right, Madam Duopu, this administration came to power on the heels of change, bringing change. So I think what we can do, and this is not just being critical of CDC or President Weah. I think we have to be fair and step back and say, hey, this is a systemic problem that goes beyond President Weah. He is continuing the trend, all the same. Because if you look at the budget, if you're going to bring change to the country, then you have to step back and say, look, we've been running this budget for the last 100 and some odd years, right? That's how we've been running budgets. It hasn't worked for us, right? How do we adjust our budgeting to fit the 21st century economies, right? You look at how things run in the world today, it's a lot different than how it ran in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. How are we adjusting to accommodate that? Well, if you look at some of what we've been spending money on over the last few years, cars for government officials, why? Do we need to repurchase cars on that cycle? I think it's 5 years or 3 years, and then it's worn down and they reorder whatever the cycle is. So those are things you have to question. Those are the type of things that are bloating up the budget on the expenditure side. Now, working the expenditure side is the best and easiest way to start because you have control over it. That's what's in the pot, right? You can control what's in the pot of money.
Yeah.
The increase in the revenue side takes a little bit more time, to work. A lot more variables before you can get more money and increase the revenue. What we are not doing, Madam Duopu, on the expenditure side is managing the money to fit the many miles that are in the country. Managing the money in a way that you lay the foundation for what comes tomorrow. I'll give you an example. When I came to this country, right, the U.S. government invested in me and many others in this country through what we call financial aid, right? If you came in here, you're poor, you got no money to go to school, there's some assistance for you to get in college, take a few classes. Those who got that investment, you went to school on financial aid, you got that college degree, your income potential then rises by magnitude, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden, the taxes you pay on the increased revenue then benefits the country. I've been in this country 25 years now, 25. And what I have paid in taxes over 25 years dwarfs the money they invested in me for the 2, 3, 4 years or 6 years plus I've been, in college up to the degrees that I have, right? So I have paid back and then some. What we are saying is there are many people in our country who want to grow their potential, right? Some of it is God given, some of it needs to be developed. They don't have the opportunities to grow that potential. And if we can take the extra 800 and some odd million dollar that Dean mentioned, right? If we had taken some of that money, because it's already gone, it's not a pot of money that's there anymore. That $800 million is already gone. If we took some of that money, most of that money, and invested in the training, the skill set for John Brown, so all of a sudden now he's got better skill set to be an entrepreneur. If we provided programs where they can be exposed to the technologies of tomorrow, so they can have the foundation 5 years from now when things open up, man, he's already trained. Because you don't wait for the opportunities to show up before you go to school. You go to school, finish your degree or your certificate, and when the opportunities come up, you pick up a piece of paper and show it, right? So 1 second, Madam Duopu, and then you're coming. So I think this is what we're seeing. This is not just we're trying to pound on Mr. Weah. What we're seeing is it took Liberia 170 some odd years to get $874 million worth of debt, right? Or 100, well, not 174 because we're 170 some odd now, but it took him 100 some odd years. It's taking Mr. Weah 4 years to double all of the debt that we've gotten from 1847 up until he came in power. It took him 4 years to double that. And the bridges you mentioned, we don't see the bridges. The roads you mentioned, our country is still disconnected. If you want to step back and say, look, what is the problem we're trying to solve? You say the Southeast, okay? A part of me is also from the Southeast, right? So what are the options if you don't have all of that money, right? We have a waterway that connects the Southeast, connects the entire coast. I had an opportunity to travel to a certain Caribbean country, 2 countries in one, Trinidad and Tobago. Do you know that the mode of transportation between the two, besides the 30-minute flight I took, there is a vessel, a ferry that takes people from the main island to Tobago. That's just back and forth, about 2 hours. So we don't have the money to build all of the roads to the Southeast. Could we step back and say, hey, we have a waterway. Could we use ferries, right? That was one of the things that we had looked at in 2017 in Liberty Party as an option, because we understand road conditions in Liberia. They're bad. They're bad for agriculture. They're bad for healthcare. They're bad for education. So could we look into that? Could we put a team to study the flow, the current in that region from Cape Mount to Maryland, and say, hey, maybe we start with the ferries. Some of the ferries now, if you look them up, they cost anywhere from 3 to I think 15 million, depending on what you're carrying. They carry cars, because the particular ferry in Trinidad carry cars. It carries a lot. So you can still look at alternatives and say, hey, this is a cheaper option, short term or mid-term. And then in the budget, if we continue to work and save money, we spend less on expenditure, we can put some of that money into a trust fund every year for that big road project that we can start funding, 5 years, 3 years, whatever. That money is growing while you're being more efficient with the little that you have. We all have budgets, right? In our personal lives. We have income and we have expenditure, right? The way we're managing the government's budget, if we manage our personal lives like that, we will always be below the poverty line. And that, so that's my opinion.
Yeah, come in, Constance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Suah. Let me say this. Mr. Suah, I don't know, you former member of Liberty Party. You are here talking about budgeting. Okay, Liberty Party, I don't know your level of corruption. You can't even maintain your own party image. You elected a criminal to be your chairman, someone who was indicted and bound, and you are here talking about budgetary and talking. Hold on, please. Let me say this to you. Everything you talk about, President Weah came into power. President Weah is the one that gave free tuition. President Weah is the one that paid for YA fee for students. President Weah is the one, University of Liberia, even with all the alumni association, is the one who trying to digitize and make sure that people are not in line queue from capital building to register for courses. They are doing it online. You are here talking about President Weah. Liberia cannot progress without rules. And the only important thing at this time is to construct rules. If we get rules, if we have rules, our economy will grow, and that's the focus of the president. I can
But
tell Mr. Sandy Way,
yeah,
agriculture, when you invest, you do not see your investment as soon as possible. That's where you people are getting it wrong. You are getting it wrong with everything the president is doing. Come by 2 years from now, you will see the number of food on the market. Even you're beginning to see the Liberian rice, a lot of people producing rice, a lot of people raising cattle. Give it time. It won't happen overnight. Sandy, you give all these people enough time.
go yeah, go
Now,
ahead,
Go
go ahead,
ahead.
volunteer, go
Take
ahead.
your case because
you
it's not
can
helping,
continue
Constance.
yourself.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, go
You're
ahead,
the one making the
volunteer, go
case.
ahead.
No, I am making the case.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
make
ahead.
your case.
Using your 401k in America, when you begin to invest, you do not just see the result. You do
Yeah,
not.
we understand that.
So can
Okay.
I ask?
But my
So,
401k has to be
so
protected some kind of
No,
way.
no, it makes let me tell you, you have electricity in Liberia. You can't tell me Liberia before Ellen doing Ellen Johnson Sally. The president, you go eat, you go Broad Street at night, you go Congo Town, you go here, the electricity. And brothers, my brothers, Liberia is not just Monrovia. Go out in the rural county. The president is doing a lot of things in the county. You talk about poverty. Let me tell you something. There is something called citizens' responsibility. We cannot take this. You get three branches of government. You cannot just go and shuffle everything on the president. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. It will never work that way. Liberians, all Liberians are politicians. Everybody think they understand the law. They understand everything. You talk about budget. You got the people. You talk about salary. The person is not the one that's going to say, "Oh, this person did." You take it to the lawmakers. What are the citizens' role? What are they doing? What are the representatives doing? Are they all sedition? No. You talk about your light that you elected. You are all over the place. The light. Where is the light now? He's dim.
okay.
He's
So so
even
So,
corrupt more than anybody.
so
So
can
you,
I
I
ask?
have a question. I have a question
when
for.
you trying
let
to
me just
speak,
come in.
do not just target the president. I will
Okay.
expect that when we come to or on this platform when we are having this civic discussion, let us look at the role of the legislators. Let us
Okay.
look at the roles of the role of the citizen. Let us look at the executive branch. What can we do? We should be finding solution. We shouldn't be taking this thing and think because President Weah is not one of your elites that you expected, one of those people that you think you treat,
Okay.
who it was better for them to become president. President Weah is the president for the next 12 years. When Liberians begin to hold the lawmakers, we begin to hold ourselves accountable, then we will
Thank
lift
you.
up.
Thank you,
But
Madam
You know, I
Chair.
have a question. I have
honestly,
a question for you, Mr. Vicuna, and my dear
Yeah,
Madam,
ask the question quickly.
Madam Duopu. I think if we got to be sensitive to each other, I think we are looking at all of us are looking through one lens, the Liberian lens, and I want to be honest. I think the innovation that was expressed by Brother Suah in terms of the, I mean, just the idea that we can use, what was the
Move the
process
country
again?
forward. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
that
we
was
can use.
what I was going to come to,
And
Dean.
the
I
other
was going to
part
talk
that I
about Philip's
wanted to share
suggestion.
with you, Madam Dopo, I don't think is a personal issue. We all want best for country.
Right.
You do know there's a power pool. Let me come in. Let me just finish. There's a power pool that's coming out of the Ivory Coast. Do you know Ganta is lit now, almost 24/7 from the Ivory Coast basin, the power pool that comes out. That whole
Who
southeast.
initiated that?
No, I know it started from Ellen. We owe 9 million, but that's something the government can tap into. Let me just finish. The other thing the ferry Brother Suah is talking about. You know what a 10-year-old sedition told me? He said, I love President Weah. He said to me, Uncle Dean, he said, but they're playing football. They're so enthusiastic about the soccer. He said, have you ever thought about a rice meat? Every county will grow rice. They have a central, mill system. The county that produces the best rice or the most rice gets a trophy. And then the students can have food for lunch, even if it's dry rice and palm oil. So the idea here is the innovation that Brother Suah is alluding to is the innovation. It's not putting blame on President Weah. This budget has been so cyclical.
Exactly.
There's been the same thing. Not blaming Weah from Madam Sally.
Then I don't know what's happening with your lighting. It just
I don't know. Maybe it's
there's some kind of smoke.
I think the bottom line is that this budget has been bouncing off for 12 years, and no one has the vision. And I think Phillip is just being Liberian. He's asking that you look at the ferry. I'm asking that you look at the power pool and maybe do something more with agriculture and then expanding rural connectivity. And this young kid told me, 10-year-old, have a rice meat every year instead of just kicking football.
Yeah, it can be considered the rice
So
content.
the idea I'm making, Volcano, is that everyone has to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And that's being a true Liberian.
I think Constance,
Those things have been.
jotting down some of these key points.
Exactly.
These things have been discussed. They are discussing them to tell you
Where
the
they discussing it? Constance, don't
we
do
are
this,
talking
man.
about building the
All the guys that trying to
warehouse
get
system in central Moro, in central Liberia, Ganta, Banga, where you can have a warehouse that is centered there to serve the other people. It's all innovation, as he said, creativity. These things are in the pipeline. You won't see them now.
Okay,
You won't see them now. When they build that warehouse in places like Tapeta in the middle there, people from Sino, Maryland, then you get Amazon people, their goods will be stored down there, and people don't have to come to Monrovia. These things, let me tell you, it takes time, Volcano. Liberia is 120 something years. George,
listen, I'm getting old and I can't wait. Time can't wait for Moses.
Madam
Let's hear from Moses. Let's hear from Moses.
Madam Chair, let me just say something quickly. A critical look of the president's message, we earlier reported that.
You kind of twist that. You look.
Yeah.
Like
okay. A critical look at the president's annual message. We reported that earlier. The government said they invested 5% of the nation's budget into public sector investment. Where are the investment? The National Investment Commission of Liberia, the NIC, is inactive. So where are the companies in Liberia? This is the question that I would like for you to respond to. This is what I want you to convince Liberians that what Mr. Weah reported reflects the truth, but nothing but the truth. And the realities of things in the country don't represent that. How would you answer that? Where are the companies?
Okay, Mr. Moses Sandy, when you talk about companies, there are private people that are hiring people. You don't have Liberia is just from war. You talk everything President we are trying to do. Liberian, this brother just said it was Madam Sedi. Madam Sedi got a blueprint, and President we implement the blueprint. When you talk about investment, if you say the president said he invested, there's a number of percentage in the country economy. That's true. You cannot ask me where are the company. The reality does not always reflect what you think. It's not always the matter.
But what the president
listen to me, Moses. Your reality is different from another person's reality. Number one, I don't know when was the last time you were in Liberia.
It is not about
no, because you and I know Liberian people fabricate stories. Whether you like it or not, that's the truth.
But what is the fabrication?
Where's the fabrication?
With the man reported, we're analyzing the speech.
No, you're talking about the reality. You're saying the reality, it doesn't reflect the reality.
The NIC, the state agency that drives investment, is inactive. It's non-functional. And the government claims to have spent 5% of the nation's income on investment, on public sector investment. So my question to you as chair of the CDC, where are the companies? Where are the investments? Why is unemployment is so high in the country? Why?
And
Because
I think if I
no,
can come in,
no. Like can I say
no,
because you
no,
came from war. That's one. You got a lot of people doing
Who
that
came from
period.
war?
No,
Since
the country.
2010.
No, no, wait. There are a lot of uneducated, unskilled people
This is
in the
20
country.
years later.
That's
Not
another
really.
thing.
are you going to educate them?
No, wait
Let,
now.
Okay.
let me
So
do a quick comparative analysis.
unskilled people,
Yeah.
you got the young people, a lot of them that fought the war, they were not rehabilitated, even though Ellen received X amount of dollars, she did
No,
nothing.
Madam Chair, our focus is George Weah now. Let's
No,
leave
yeah,
every
No,
other
listen.
issue.
I
Yeah.
got to
But
name the
I said, let me
point.
come in now because I've
Yeah.
been mute for a
Philip,
while. I see
Philip,
Madam
Philip,
Duopu has
Philip, before
spoken.
you come in, Philip, you haven't been fair to Madam Duopu. Madam Duopu, let me ask you a question. There's $75 COVID fee that
Yes.
you pay when you come in and when you go out.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that money? Where does it go?
It was not even accounted for in the budget.
No.
Asking me where is that money?
It was
You
not
see,
accounted for in the budget as income generation.
Yeah,
oh,
it was
hold
never
on,
reflected. No, it
hold
was never
on.
reflected.
Did you itemize the budget? Because everything in the budget, there are other places that
No,
you can
no,
see. No, no, I'm
no,
not
Madam
defending
Chair.
that, but I'm asking you, if you asking me
It
where
wasn't
is that
reported.
money? The
Yeah.
health ministry, you got people who are doing testing. I am sure I'm not a health minister. I am not the one who responsible for that money.
Okay.
But if you were to ask me if you're going to be doing COVID testing, you got to order supplies. It was not
Yeah, but
COVID,
where
was
is
not
that report?
no,
What
wait,
even
that
if
money was
you
not allocated in the past budget. We did
that's
not
not
know
the
that
issue,
COVID was
bro.
going to be here. So the money you are
No,
collecting,
2021, we had COVID. COVID came
and before
2019.
the budget, before that budget. So at this time, I'm not a health budget. I did not go, but I will tell you that the rate at which people are going in the country, they have to buy supply, the testing kit, the everything. That's not what I'm saying, but I am guessing if you are head of such agency, you have to make sure you have all the supplies. They
But that's
got
not what we're
different
saying,
centers.
Madam Duopu. What we're saying that account for it. Say we use it to buy COVID testing. Don't
Right.
just buy
Exactly.
COVID
If they
testing
put
and
the
pay the
budget, no,
testing.
if they say health ministry, they put this in the budget. I don't think they itemize everything for you to see. They
They
know
It's
that
do.
not
the
revenue. It's not revenue generated. It's the health ministry, the education ministry will say what has been expended. We are asking you, and this is not only that. When
Listen, Dean,
McGill,
let's move on. Let's hear
last
what Philip
question,
has
when
to say.
McGill gave
Yeah, let me come in.
750
Dean,
let
pounds,
me
let's hear
get
Philip.
some
Come in, Philip.
I'm trying not to. I'm
listen
trying
to
not to
Philip.
cut. I'm trying
it's
not to
okay.
cut Madam Duopu off. So I've been giving her a chance to talk. But yeah, no, I think one of the things. Look, and for you and for all of those in CDC, I think one of the problems we've had in our country is when you hear constructive criticism, you still run to the hill and say, "Oh, they're," you know. And what you do is when you take that posture, you lose the opportunities, right? That you could probably pick up and say, "Oh, okay. I disagree with you on this, this, and that, but this thing makes sense to me, or it's something that I can run on." So take that posture, because when people criticize this government, it's not because they don't like Mr. Weah or President Weah. That's the knee-jerk reaction from a lot of you. The criticism is intended to help this president and this government change so it can benefit the country. So take the criticism from that perspective. Don't say, oh, they don't like President Weah. Oh, this, no. So let me come to some of the points I want to make. When you talk about a lot of things you talk about, you say, oh, the country is getting better. All those are just subjective. What people look at when they're looking at a country or a business or an entity, they look at the numbers as a whole. What picture is it painting? What is that reality relative to what's happening in that company, in that entity, in that country? And right now, the two, they are just disconnected, right? Everything that we're talking about doesn't mean, look, Mr. Weah hasn't done anything as a president. That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing the resources that we have in that budget, as small as it may be, right? There are better things he could have done better with the budget over the last few years than he has done. I think the work for those of you in CDC in this government is step back and say, look, what have we not done? Everything you're saying, oh, the government is doing this, they're doing this, they're doing that. Nobody is feeling it. Inflation is going to kill us even more over the next few years, right? And it's not just a Liberia problem, it's a global problem. So it's going to kill us even more. So the $1 we're making today, right, is worth 80 cents or 75 cents, depending on where you are, right? So your money is going to get smaller because of inflation. If Mr. Weah's government, right, does not take the time to step back and say, look, are we really spending this government money in a way that will benefit the future generation, right? If we don't step back, the same mistakes of all the previous governments that we all complain about, it will be the same thing. We've already seen it over the last few years because he's following the same playbook. Nothing has changed. The budget is done the same way. The allocations are done just about the same, high on the top end, right? For compensation, like we mentioned earlier. Very low work, minimum work on the expenditure side. You don't see that part going down like it should, right? That's what we're trying to talk about. And if you talk about, you mentioned things like, roads. If I ask you now, what percentage of the roads have been paved? Roads in and of themselves don't bring about economic development. Those roads must be able to connect points of contact that would generate the revenue, whether it's agriculture or farm to market, or in domestic, not domestic, but regional, opening the region. So between Liberia, Guinea, Ivory Coast to accommodate trade, to give us efficiencies. You don't just go pave road and say the road will generate.
Phillip, let me just support you right there on that premise.
Yeah.
I started something in public works administration. I considered the road to nowhere. When you build road because you want to build road and it's not going to pay for itself, then what was the need of building the road?
Why
Correct.
So there will be a lot of roads to nowhere. Continue.
Yeah, so that's the thing we're
Phillip,
saying.
let me proposition you.
One second, Dave. Give
Yes.
me 1 second. So when you say the president built this road, oh, he built this other market, he built this other road, he did this. Those roads are not going to generate money, right? They'll not generate money today. They'll not generate money 5 years from now. Because where we're building those roads, there are no economic activities there. You're building those roads. Yes, people in the village will be happy, but no pineapple coming from that village to go to the market to spur economic growth. You're not developing a farm over there, a commercial-based farm that will generate jobs for the people in the village, that will bring products to Monrovia, that will help us to export so we can get some US dollars from the export. We're not doing any of that. And if you look at one other component in the budget that we haven't talked about, is this thing that they've come up with, a brilliant idea for a campaign year, right? But it's kind of it's self-centered. This issue of giving the stimulus to the poorest families, right? So they're gonna give $30, I think about $30 to about 5,000 people in that extreme poverty class. So it amounts to about 18,000 households. So this president been president since 2018, when poverty was still poverty, right? 4 years later, he hasn't done anything. Election year. So now we're making policies because we want to position ourselves in election year to look like we're doing something for the people, right? So look, stimulus, you don't just hand money out without the policy. No, okay, are you handing this money out short term? What's it gonna do? Just throwing money at a problem has never been a solution, because then Liberia would have been developed. Look at how much money the international community have dumped in our country from its onset. All right, billions and billions and billions.
We can't show nothing for it. We can't show nothing.
Because we're doing the same playbook and it's not working.
Yeah, Mr.
So let me say one last thing, Phillip. Just one last thing, Moses. Then I will end the budget. Then I can listen 2 minutes of your time.
Okay.
Let me express disclaimer. Madam Duopu, as I said, I think I hear from everyone. My own take is there's nothing we've seen, and Phillip has stressed it. Thinking outside the box is the way we must go. Let me take a quick and say this 1 second, Volcano. You see, budgets do have misgivings. When $10 million was spent every year to renovate the executive mansion by Madam Salif, 10 million a year for 4 years under the late McLean Presidential Affairs Minister office, we didn't see any renovations at the executive mansion. When 50 million social funds was expensed by Robert Salif, we didn't see the impact on Liberians. When in fact, I just found out last week, the Pan African Plaza, 8 million was rented for the last 3 years of Madam Salif presidency. We never saw the money. And then we have $75 coming in and going, 16 billion, 25 million. The point is, it's a carryover. And all we're saying, if we must do well for country, with all of these vexing problems we have, let the budget reflect tangible solutions that will impact the lives of the ordinary Liberian. He talked about the ferry. I talk about a football year replaced by who grows the most food on our National Independence Day. We talk about connecting the Southeast. Do you know it's only 10 cents per kilowatt from the Ivory Coast to supply electricity? There's a big meter there in Total. There's a company that is doing well and selling the electricity for 25 cents. In Morovia, it's 55 cents. The government has to look now and say we have a national opportunity to open, diversify employment, since we have electricity, attract more people. That money from the NIC should be going in the Southeast where there's already electricity. So what we're saying, in short, Moses and, Volcano and the panelists, is that if we keep on this cyclical budgeting where we just slapping in numbers and increasing debt, if we're not thinking outside the box, it will always be national crisis, our citizenry underserved, less opportunities, no planning, and our future will continue to be bleak. But not only Weah has taken this money, though. I told you 3 areas that Ellen hasn't accounted for. So you guys, I will leave it on that, and I will say that to maybe Madam Duopu. It's not that
So
$75. We don't have a problem with you spending it. Just tell us if it's going to finance ministry or if the health ministry is collecting it. How are they spending it? They say we get maybe $1,075. We're buying this for supplies, the testing cubes or whatever. Then we have this deposited the balance in the national treasury, the Bank of Liberia, the national fund. The fact that you don't have a report that synchronizes your expenditure, what you're receiving, what you're spending, that becomes something that smells corruption.
okay.
So that's all I wanted to say. Think outside the box. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. So, Mr. Wilson, thanks for the analysis. Now, let's move on to the next phase of our discussion, and this is going to focus on President Weah 2021 nationwide tour. The president reported that the National Legislature approved 10 million United States dollars for the presidential tour, and that money was to be used for projects in rural Liberia. So during the reporting year, the president reported that the government undertook housing projects. They built several housing units in Nimba, in Montserrat County, and other rural areas. They erected streetlights, they built roads, and these are all laudable initiatives. However, there are two areas that really, critics of the government are concerned about. Many people report that the roles or most of the projects being undertaken, projects that were undertaken by the government, most of those projects are substandard and dishonesty in the bidding process. Was also reported, and that It was also identified. In fact, the president himself reported this in his nationwide address that some of that money was used to renovate Weah High School. The Liberian government erected an annex at Weah High School. And again, this is where honesty comes in. And I would like for you to speak to this, Madam Chair. Weah High School is a private institution. And I do understand that President Weah graduated from Weah High School.
No, he didn't graduate from there.
I
He
mean,
was
he
not.
attended. Yeah, he
Okay.
attended Weah High School. When he spoke to Liberians on January 24th, he reported that the government undertook construction work at Weah High School. But he didn't tell the people of Liberia where that money came from because Weah High School is a private institution. Why did the government use public money to renovate a private school? I want for you to speak to that, Madam Chair.
So just before you come in, Constance, let me just add this part to it. $10 million is a drop in the bucket. With all of the things you put here,
Yeah.
$10 million can't do that. So it's just one of those
Yeah.
picture they're painting again that listen, we use this money for all of these things. So
Yeah.
Constance, I just wanted you to really make it
Yeah,
clear
nail
it's
this
$10
for us.
million
Yeah.
to
Help
do
us
all of that.
understand. Yeah.
Come in,
Okay,
Constance.
so let me go to the issue of Weah Heston being a private school.
Yes.
Even if Weah Heston is a private school, do you know that even in Liberia, government sometimes will subsidize and give money to private institutions like
We
the
agree.
Catholic school, even pay, okay. And if you're talking about you got young people in central Monrovia, the place congested, what is wrong with if a land or a space is allocated to build an annex or to renovate the school for other public use? I don't think that's a crime that the president committed with.
In the same token, madam, you're coming in the same token, the National University of Liberia is in a deplorable shape. The
Yeah.
classroom having
Toddler High.
oh,
Toddler High.
Moses,
Okay, hold
Moses,
on.
Moses, let me just add.
You
Let me
you
just
you
let
you
me
talk
just give
about
it.
the university.
So you have the university classroom coming down with downflow of water, rainwater. Students are
Mm,
dressing in the corner.
mm,
No bathroom. Barely
mm,
they got to ease themselves in many other ways. And
mm.
but you're taking money
To
to
renovate a
put into a
private
private
school.
school
Okay,
when you say the education at the universities should be free, but you're not funding it as it
no.
should be.
Okay, let me speak to this. This is where we talk about responsibility. You have Zawlo Nelson, Dr. Zawlo Nelson, who having to be the president of the University of Nigeria. You are saying to me Dr. Nelson cannot even come up with a budget and be able to sell his budget to, because not the president, I think he will sell that to whoever is the relevant agency to renovate that. We all are humans
We're
here.
gonna do up with the president say free education. Where the man
No,
gonna
but
go? His
you
hands are tied.
no, don't say your hands are tied because
But you got to
The
do it.
university is underfunded.
they gave the University of Liberia has a budget. They gave them funding. Even at that, if I
The
am the head,
university is
like
underfunded,
you
Madam
see,
Nothing
Chair.
no,
changed.
it's not. So then the president of the university, before you appoint somebody, I am the chairman of CDC-USA. My appointments, every committee is slow. People think it's slow. But before I appoint you, I want to see your vision. I want to see what you have to bring to the table. I want to see what you can do as head of that committee. Dr. Nelson, and that's why we say most of the educated people, the education does not benefit them. If you are appointed the president of a university, I think you should have a plan. And I would say to the president of Liberia or to the legislature, I say, if you want me to take this position, this is what I expect in order for me to function and deliver. If not, I cannot take this position. I should be able to convey my message and my dream. I should be able to tell you ways that I will raise money for that institution. We come to the Wellhead issue. We all are humans. We shouldn't because we are not president. But if I am here, if 10 persons are coming to me for requests, whoever sells the message, and if I see the need, maybe what it would take me to renovate the Weah store is not going to take me to renovate this place. It also comes to leadership. If you are a leader of an entity, I think we talked about the University of Liberia. We saw the building, we saw it's not painted. I don't think it's the president's responsibility to paint the University of Liberia. If Zaburo Nelson, who having to be the president, has a budget, he pay his teachers, he pays salary, he receive money. He cannot even organize and raise money to paint that building. If I'm in that position, I'm going to dismiss him. I can tell you, looking at that university, because he takes bill. Who take me to a
I hope the president is
university?
hearing you and take action. But I
So,
doubt
so
he
can
will.
can I ask? I think.
Yeah,
You
Go
go
take
ahead.
ahead,
me,
Swat. Go
who
ahead,
takes
Swat.
me, who takes me to the university or give me a position, and then I go to the place, Jeha amended. After 2 years, the place is still the same. No, I do not want such person to leave. If I appoint you to an opposition, at least I want to see the minimum thing you can do after 1 year.
So
So I
so
don't think.
Madam Duopu is so what you just said, the last statement, is exactly what we're asking this administration. We've given them 4 years. You're giving the appointees 1 year to see what they can do. We've given this administration 4 years, and we still haven't seen what they can do. If you look at the budget, right? Who generates the budget, right? It's
Executive.
the executive branch. Who's in charge of the executive branch? The president. The when you apply leadership to a country, it's not you looking at one or two things that's good in the eyes of the public to do, and then you do it, or your self-interest. You got to step back and look at things from a big picture perspective, right? What is this nation needing over the next 12 months? What are the high priorities of this country? Where do we need to spend the most money to generate the most value? To me, that's how you approach the issue of the budget. You're putting the burden on the president of the university. He has some of the burden. You know, other people who attend a university or graduate from we all have, all Liberians, all of us, we share some responsibility. But the bottom line is, we Liberians elected a leader and decided to give the envelope to that leader and say, look, feed all of us in a way that at least we can all benefit. That money is not going around the way it's supposed to go around.
Yeah.
Now, if you have that envelope, you have 7 children in that house, right? You know the money is small. We always talk the story of how mothers can stretch a dollar into so many things. That's what we're asking. That money is not being stretched the right way. You cannot say you look at all the big problems we have in the country. Volcano and Moses just mentioned LU or even the government school, Tupman High, right? And you say, okay, we're going to skip Tupman High, we're going to skip LU, we're going to go to Wells. So what was the decision-making process when you're doing that budget to say, oh, this is more of a value, than this? Or even stepping back to say, look, we're spending money on purchasing vehicles for government officials that only drive within 15, 20 square miles on a daily basis, right? So you look at how many lawmakers we have, 103. How much we're spending on cars for them? Is that necessary, right? And not only are we spending the money on a one-time basis, this is a recurrent expense on some cycle. I forgot if it's 3 years or whenever the car is written down, you repurchase. That's unnecessary spending, right? That money, if you look at how much money that is generated from purchasing cars and then gas slips, right? You could build a lot of universities, right? You could build a lot of hospitals. You could build the same roads that you're talking about, that we're talking about. That's the kind of approach we need to take. There's no reason why like you got multiple people in the ministry that are driving cars on taxpayer dollars. It's not needed, right? It's not needed. Not only that, you everybody and their uncle has a driver, right? Those drivers can be trained to do other things, right? Let some people drive themselves to work. Let some people take on some of those responsibilities so that we can have a little bit more money to send that extra kid to school,
But
money
Philip,
in
let
the
me say this
budget
quick.
to fix the
Philip, let me say
issues
this quick.
that
The
he mentioned.
Liberian, Philip, the Liberian man nature, you gave him a car, you gave him driver, you gave him walkie-talkie, a
And,
big
Yeah,
man.
and getting
You
exactly.
get
gas.
you get a man walkie-talkie, you get him driver, and you get his car, he's not a big man. But
Yeah.
just
And
before we continue, let me just come with an intermission and say you're in the issues room with us. We're having one issue here tonight. Our audience in Facebook land are not with us tonight because of the situation I explained earlier. However, our broadcast is live on YouTube, Twitter, and the issues room page on Facebook. And
Yes.
what I would do is after this show, I'm going to link it to our Facebook page and we'll share it. But we have at least another 25 minutes to go. And we're just going to look at two critical areas now. And I'll put it this way: we're going to look at the fight against graft and corruption handled by Moses. And I will come in with the rule of law. And then we'll be wrapping this conversation up tonight. So we don't want to keep us here all the way till 9 p.m. So we'll be wrapping up at least in the next 25 minutes. So, Moses, let me
yeah,
just go and then you come after me.
yeah, sure, go, yeah.
All right. So, we talked about the budget and we talked about the things that the budget should be influencing. And one of those areas, rule of law. No specific terms of progress or challenges were put forth within the president's speech. The persistent political interference from the executive branch, mainly by the president, um, and you're saying here that, oh, everything can be on the president, but the president has usurped the power even of the legislature, even the powers of the
The
court.
Supreme Court, yeah.
You mean, and you know, and it's so common in our in our Liberian setting. It happened with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. It happened with Charles Taylor. It happened with Samuel Doe, and this has been the age-old problem. So President Weah, who came from a humble beginning and a humble background, we thought exonerate himself and take himself away, but that's not the case. So where's the rule of law? Corruption, underfunded criminal justice system. How do these people fight to keep our country safe? We are blessed, my people. We are blessed, and I say we are blessed because we're sitting on a time bomb. 1990, we have youth that were born. I was watching a clip yesterday, and the guy said the only thing those people were concerned on the Ellen time was to take the guns from us. But all the other arrows, the rehab, the remobilization, the integration, all those other arrows, they never did any of them. And so some of us were left in limbo. That's why we reverted to drugs. That's why we reverted to where we are today. Young girls prostituting, guys becoming zogos overnight, using, and again, it's unfortunate. But these are the people that our country will be left to. So where's that rule of law? And how does this budget account for it? Madam Duopu.
Oh, thank you very much. Before I even go to speak to that issue, I would like to Philip makes some, salient points about, when he
You need
talked
to
about
recruit Philip. You need to bring Philip to the CDC.
everything.
So
Oh,
Philip, I mean, you on board.
I mean, it's politics now. We got to
when,
cross cut that.
when
I
we
beg you.
when we talk about institution, we became member of CDC because we know the fundamental issues and the principles that we CDC stands for. But
Okay.
when you take power, you have other elements that are in government. I get that. And my thing is, we as citizens, tonight we are on this platform discussing, but our citizens, we have the power, we give the power. I think we should take the lead and demand what we need from our people, from our leaders, because we are the ones that will be going to the polls tomorrow to elect our legislators, our representatives. When you talk about the issue of the car, I don't want to spend more time on it. If the people in the district leaders say, you know what, before we go to the election, the referendum, we need this. If you will buy a car in the car. And it's, as you said, it's circular. It's a long history thing. If in your own personal life you cannot buy a vehicle and trash it after 3 years, why should a government buy you a car after 3 years and you pay $300 for it? But again, it would be the legislatures that will vote upon that. It's not the president. So we, the citizens that are in this district, we need to put attention. The same way we go out there to protest, we need to have this discussion. And
I
I'm
don't think
glad
I don't
that
think I don't think the legislature have anything to do with that. It is the
It's not. Yeah, it's
executive
not.
branch.
It's the executive runs the daily affairs,
yeah,
Madam.
no, the executive will bring it to them and people will go back and they will say this is not what they want. But if the citizen mount the pressure, if the citizen because it's not easy for the president to say, oh, you know what, no more car will be pushing.
But the
Here is
same
what I
president went to the house. The
Madam
same
Chair,
president went to the house. Moses. The
here
same
is what
president
I
went to
think.
the house
Here
and
is
he
what I
brought up
think.
harmonization of salary. The same
Yes.
president asked the people to reduce salary. The same
Correct.
president, when he wear purple suit, everybody dressed like him.
Yes, so that
So
step
all
by
these things.
step. Yes, so it's step by step. As we create this awareness, as we talk about them, people can begin that conversation. I think if you are a minister, if the government, whether they will buy you car, but I think they should have a target that we're going to spend $10,000 or $5,000 on your vehicle, or we all buy our own cars. If you are a minister, you want to buy a car, buy your own car and pay your car note. I think it will happen. So these are good points, and these are things that we as citizens of the Republic of Liberia, it has nothing to do with the CDC-led government. That's a
It
system
is.
that is there.
It is.
No,
It is. Because look, this is the thing
because
though.
we cannot
Let's
leave
hear from
the
Phillip.
history. Change is not just one day. It takes time. Change is a process.
Yeah, but it's been
It's not
4
just
years.
one day.
Look, Mount Dopu, it's been 4 years, right? That's not an
Then we
excuse.
get a harmonization of the salary.
Yeah, but
Right?
how has that benefited the country? You say you harmonize the salaries. You only harmonize the salary for the people at the bottom end and didn't touch the full salary.
No. Whether you will be doing a disservice to this
So
government.
let me
You
let me
look at
no, let me
some ministers that were making 10, 15,000,
hold on
they
now.
are down
Hold on.
to 5,000.
On average is what we're talking about. You harmonizing on average. You look at the dollar amount. Is the people who are below there are the ones that's what
But
we got to
something
look at.
is better than nothing.
But this is the
The
thing,
problem
though.
in
It's
Liberia,
just
let me tell you, Liberia's
listen.
problem is not one, is not two, is not three. It's everything
Yeah,
that you have to tackle bit by bit. I hope you
but
get it.
that's why he
I
was
hope
So then
you
if you
elected.
ain't what the
understand that.
president said, don't take it.
Exactly. That's why he was elected. He
If
was
it
That
elected
don't
will
be
to
true,
go to
don't
the
take
next
it.
topic. I
Yeah,
just
man.
wanted to comment on that point that
So
Suah made.
Constance,
Yes.
this is the There's the issue you talk about. Oh, is the citizen, is the legislator? You're putting the problem everywhere, but where it's supposed to be. The president can come out and say, let's assume the legislature's fighting. Let's say somehow they fight and say they're not going to do it if you take the cars. That's worst case, right? That's not going to happen, right? But
Yeah.
let's start with yourself. It says charity begins at home. If I'm a legislator, right? You come to me, president, and say, oh, we want to reduce this, we want to reduce that. I see you breaking down Tina and building Tina up there, on your own side. Okay? All right. I see you driving the thing everybody want to drive. You're driving it. Not only one, you're driving 3, 4, 5. You can't come to me. I'm on the lower end and say, look.
No, no, Phillip, you're not on the lower end. You are a separate branch of government. You have equal authority. So
exactly, but I mean lower end in terms of how much money and stuff.
okay, yeah.
On the lower end, I'm making less than you, but you're coming to me and say, look, we need a cut here. I think this is what any president, again, this is not just President Weah. You have to start from the executive, right? You start from yourself and say, look, and this is not me. This is something I spent a lot of time with the late Councilor Brumsky, right? So this is one of the things he has stated he would have done, right? And I think he spoke about some of which I'm repeating here. He was going to take the onus on himself to reduce his pay, cut the executive because he had direct access. He didn't need control. He didn't need somebody's input to reduce the expenses on the executive side. Okay, so You can come up, Mr. President, and say, look, as of this day, we're no longer going to purchase vehicles for XYZ, right? No one's going to give you a problem with that in the legislature. If you did that as a leader, you start cutting the unnecessary expenditure on the government side, buying gas for people, doing all this stuff that's unnecessary spending. If you've done that in the budget, and then you sit with the legislators and say, look, I've dealt with myself in a way. This is how I've dealt with myself. Can you all meet me halfway? Let's cut this thing down because I want to take this money that we're going to save, 10, 15, 20 million, and I want us to put, this is the project, this is where the country is going, this is what we need. Let's put that money into healthcare. GFK doesn't have good MRI, right? We can't do biopsies. I lost a family member in October of last year, sick, we could not understand, his situation. And so because of the delay in going from one hospital to another, he died, right? So if we took some of that money, so some of the things we see is not just criticism. I could travel to Liberia and get sick and have sick situations because the plane is not available to take me anytime I get sick. It's a set schedule, right? So go and cut some of that budget from the executive. Cut it. You don't need cars. You don't need to buy gas. We're going within 20 square miles. That's not a whole lot of gas for what we're giving officials of government. Go to the legislature and say, look, 103 people, can you work with us? These cars that we're giving you, this budget, this is the last time. When these cars go out, we're not ordering budget, we're not ordering cars again, period. These legislators are patriotic Liberians as well, even if we disagree with their politics and all of that, right? They're human beings. If you make the right appeal to them, right, and you set the right examples, the legislators will meet you halfway. Look at what Senator Dillon did, right? This is not political, right? When he came into his role, he said he was going to reduce his salary, right? And he put that forward. It wasn't bought. You know why? Because he was not president. It takes the president to drive some of these things in the country. That's just how it's set up. So if the president came out and started to take these measures and then goes to the legislature and said, look, meet me halfway. Let's save $20 million and put it in GFK. Let's save this money and give free vocational training to build the skill sets of the people we call in Zogos. All right. Let's help make University of Liberia free. I was a student at LU. I completed my first year at LU before I came to this country. And even though when I was there, it was after the war, but I did sit in some of those chairs where, at that time it was a war, the roof was leaking, things were all over. So invest in these young people. To the example that I gave earlier, the money you're investing to give John Brown free LU University college degree, right? University degree. That money will pay a dividend because when John or Mary come out of college, some of them will go and be creative in different ways. Their minds will be stimulated through that 4-year training to do other things. They start doing
so Philip, I will abruptly interject by saying one statement, and then I haven't made one. I believe Volcano, I believe Moses, I believe my dear sister Duopu and Phil. The solution is in the leader, the president. And I'm very convinced, if we find someone who loves this country, and any person who sets a real example, Liberia will turn around in a year's time.
Okay.
I really have that conviction. Unfortunately, it's not the president.
And I
It's
feel
not the
the
previous
same.
president. I'm just saying.
I
That's
feel
my
the same.
conviction.
Well, listen, I told us that we were going to be running out of here. So Moses,
Yeah.
That's
do
my
this last
conviction.
part because everything
Yeah.
ties in.
That's my
Yeah,
hope.
yeah, everything is starting. So that just brought us to the final phase of our discussion, the fight against corruption in Liberia. When the president appeared at the National Legislature, he reported that his administration has empowered, through legal instrument, has empowered the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, the LACC. But he provided no specifics in terms of where the government is in terms of fighting graft. As I speak to you right now, there continue to be several reports, other reports that the government has paid little or no attention to. You know what happened to the 25 million US dollars that was used for mop-up exercise. You know what happened to the $30 million the government claimed to have used for COVID-19 relief package. You know what is happening to that. You know, when Mr. Weah himself ascended to the presidency of Liberia, he built multiple homes under shady conditions. You know that public officials of the country are literally looting the country. Madam Chair, is the Weah administration making progress in fighting graft?
My answer is yes, but there are some challenges again.
Mhm,
There are so many challenges, and I will not leave it to the president fits again a list. The president appoints people who he thinks capable
mhm,
of serving the Liberian people. And we as Liberian, as citizens, we have a responsibility to our own country.
mhm.
And if we think things are
Fantastic.
not going the right way, it is the Liberian people. We are the one. All these things really do affect, not really the president in to any high extent. So yes, the president he spoke about it that he has empowered this agency. He gave them the authority to persecute, to do whatever when they found anybody or government official. So now the ball is in their court. Let us see that they try to persecute and then the executive branch interferes. Then the citizen can speak out. Without that, we'll just be going around the table and dancing. If you are empowered, the president in his annual speech said, I empower this agency to do A, Y, Z. If I'm the head, the next day I'm just going to take one case that is before me, go through the process and test the system.
But Madam,
No, so I don't see now Moses where we will hold the president. The president came in his annual speech, meaning this is very important to him. It is very important to him. He told the Liberian
I think
people,
that his government image hinges on this. Corruption is,
yes.
he has to address that.
yes,
So,
Including that
okay,
he
so
cannot overlook.
now he addressed the issue. What happens to the head of that agency?
but this,
The
Madam,
next day, I'm calling staff
four
meeting.
years.
mhm,
No, no. Okay, 4 years. Let's say 4 years, it was not addressed. It has been addressed now. I am the boss of that agency. I'm calling my immediate bosses. We are about to put something in place if it were not in place, and we begin the process and let's see. You have to test the system. They gave
Yeah,
you the power, test it.
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
I agree.
right now, I can't talk about the past, but he just reiterated that this is a problem. He has so many challenges, and he has empowered them in every way to persecute, to go through everything, and he will not interfere. Now,
Okay.
let the
So,
city and let the people do their job, and then we can come back to revisit.
All
okay.
right.
So,
Well, Mr.
Madam
Chairman,
Chair, let me put this to Mr. Suah and Mr. Wilson. Is the we administration committed to fighting dishonesty, corruption in Liberia?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I obviously can't tell you yes. I would hope so because it will benefit us as a country.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I agree, I think it's the first time I'm agreeing with Constance on the call here, but because it's not only just mentioning that corruption is something that's on the president's agenda because he said it every year for the last few
Mhm.
years, and not only him, everybody else, before him is speaking to it. But I think this issue of the people who are giving those responsibilities, taking it and running with it, and then letting us see. I mean, I guess some of that, but we've had 4 years, to do that, and we haven't done it. So we have to be honest in that regard. So I agree with you. Yeah, that has to be done. It's a lot of people's responsibility, but we have to be comfortable with when you're in that role as a president or a leader. Is you got the buck stops there. If things are not working, you can't blame Phillip because I appointed Phillip didn't do it. Then fire Phillip. I appointed Constance didn't do it. You got to take that responsibility and say, okay, look, let me step back and see how we can,
And that's what we're not seeing. That's what we're not seeing.
Exactly. So we're not seeing that. Every year we come with a budget. This is on my mind. This is what I want to do. But it's the same thing. So that has to change, right? If we want to make a difference. So
definitely.
And let me borrow.
Let me take a minute.
Constance's word. Let me borrow Constance's word. That's a disservice to the Liberian people.
Okay, let me take a minute. Moses, let me answer your question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dean. Yeah.
When you have 16 billion missing, 25 million missing, and you have monies generated from the airport for COVID, and you also have a scandal of 300-some thousand at the Bassett port, and you also have money being pillaged and spent by the presidential affairs minister up to the tune of over 700,000 for scholarships. And you have the case with even the LSC with Mr. Bala, and in fact, the gentleman from the port holding shares together where Bala resigns and the guy from the port, you understand,
yeah.
25 million, 16 billion, money from the port, money from the airport. You have skimmages of scams here, there, people being investigated, no ending. I think there's no will. And I will reiterate to say that if you feel your challenge is this, even my Madam Chair, if we get a person who leads by example, my hope in our time is this country will turn around in 1 year, because you're leading by example, you have love, you have compassion, and you can say to people that, like Rawlings did, if I ever did this, even though the 7 judges were missing, we're not going that route. 3 head of states from them, interim people, whatever. But if you said to anyone, I'm leading by example, if I do not lead by example, get in the streets, don't leave until I come down, our country will be fixed. That is my hope. That is my cry. And I believe when we get the president, not a Madam Salif was or Weah is, our country will change. But this government has not shown the will. The president, it starts from the top, has not shown the will. He's been abanishing people that he cares about, that he likes, closing his eyes, and he's running after Samukai and running after other people who are not part of that group.
And in fact, you made mention of Samuka. Is that hypocrisy? Yeah. Let me just put it back to Mr. Dean. Is that hypocrisy? Is that a hypocrisy? The fight against Samuka for graft, and at the same time, the government itself is looking the other way when insiders of the government are accused. The both for you quickly, Mr. Suah and Mr. Wilson. Do you see that as a hypocrisy?
Moses, man, we can't keep going. I said we're wrapping up.
I think it's sad.
I already said the thing going on.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's selective.
Let's bring Constance here. Listen, 1 minute.
Constance, I'm happy to see you. I thought you had left.
No.
I got disconnected somehow.
I think
you didn't hear my part, though. You didn't hear my part.
Can you tell me what you said, please? Can I listen to what you said? He can.
Everyone is clear here tonight that Constance did her best to defend her political institution.
Awesome lady. She's a diehard.
But in honesty, the Liberian people know the problem. They see the problem, and I'm one of the Liberian people. That is why we're here tonight. And I think every one of us having the discussion from a passionate background.
I care about Liberia.
Greatest ideas, Dean. Constance she points some fingers too. She said, yes, there are things happening, but let me scratch my head and see if there could be more done. But yeah, so I think we'll come back. We'll
Here
come
is
back.
the thing. Here is the
We've
thing,
already
Volcano and
covered this.
Moses.
So let's go
So,
We
around
are
the
so,
room.
in
so,
Wilson.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
So let's go
Oh,
around the room.
the thing
1 minute.
here is that we
Make
are
your
all
case.
Liberian. I'm a
Constance,
yes. You can hear
let's go
me.
around the room.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
what
your
she's doing now. She's
yeah,
wrapping
Okay.
up. Go
your
ahead.
final 1 minute.
My entire family, we are probably seven. I acknowledge the challenge. I wish we could do more. And you can't turn the blind eyes to say, oh no, nothing is happening. And can we do more? Yes, we can do more. But I think it's the way and how. And the more we have these discussions, and if you are not in that position, sometimes the problem with Liberia is how hypocritical we are. It's not just because you know that something is wrong. Even people look you square in the face because it's not if it is benefiting them, they will only look at it. So I think that's that honest conversation, that safe space. But because everybody trying to protect something, there are not many opportunities. I think that kind of cloud, the system. But yes, but I would tell you that this president is the best president for Liberia. If he can get all the support that he needs, and if everybody around him can have the vision that he has, I think we can make more progress. So I tell you that 2023 is here, Philip. I think you would be a good person on my campaign team. Mr. Wilson, I would like to recruit you on my team. We have to do it together to
So,
make a change. We
Thank you,
need we
thank you.
need to do this change.
Let's hear from the other
thank you.
guys. Come on, let's
Thank
one
you,
minute. We
guys.
gotta go. Uh, yeah, let's hear from Dean quickly. Dean, look at your
Wait,
time.
I think we've missed our track. Mr. Weah, is probably going to get a free ride. Uh, Mr. Boycott was here. I participated in the program. When the crisis started with the CPP, he said, I'm a fixer. I'm the old man, the wise man in the room. He went to Liberia and we saw a collapse when Mr. Uri left, and we saw Uri taking comments to court. All of this happened under his watch. We see an implosion of the Liberty Party with the ability side and the dealer on the other side. And these are all troubling situations because
Mhm.
they're giving Weah more than he needs to have. They're not chewing on, they're not even biting on the issue. So the opposition is in disarray. If this election is won by Weah, it's us to blame. And honestly, there's not a bigger voice. The Liberian people are wanting. But I think, Madam Jogo, to be honest with you, um, election year is long. It's 2023. The odds are against you. The Liberian people are not really being impacted, frankly, in their daily lives. I think the percentage of people who there are more sellers than buyers. There are more jobless people. The country is at risk. You have where the Zogos now, they are pretty much overtaking the police. The police is incapacitated, no logistics. So at a point where you think that, like Mr. Boyka thought this opposition leadership will be handed to him, Mr. Weah shouldn't sit supinely and think that this will be handed to him a second term. The signs are not good. If you get a very strong message that exposes to the Liberian people by the opposition, hopefully we get a final ticket. This president is in trouble. I don't think a second term will be his. We just pray for country and we pray for whoever takes the leadership, as I said, in a year's time, will turn Liberia around. And I will land on that note. But on this note, Ms. Dupo, I'm not on your side. I haven't seen enough to follow that lead. I will rest on it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. So I also agree. And on the, I think Dean mentioned CPP or the things in our different political parties in the opposition. Those are all issues. I think those are valid points. And what I believe is, with time, the CPP or the political parties within will get over that. I wish we didn't have to go through that wasted time, right? When we could have been targeting some of the mishaps in this administration, we were targeting each other. So that was poor on our part. But I have no doubt that after a short period of time, the opposition will come together in a way that will be very very strong against CDC in the next election, because people are going to vote their stomachs, they're going to vote their health care, they're going to vote their kids going to school, and none of that's being done. Everything that Constance tried to the pitch today, that is a development in Liberia, doesn't touch the average Liberian. The difficulty in the country is just much more palpable than it's been in the past. Okay, so and that's what people are going to vote for next year. Once we get our act together on our side, and I hope we do that quickly. I think the messaging will be strong. The alternative is better, regardless of who we put out there. The alternative is better, and I say that not in opposition to Mr. Weah as an individual. I also like to stress, because I've been critical of this administration. I admired Mr. Weah during his career. I thought he inspired some of us during the war. Mr. Weah was an inspiration to me. When he played, it was a joy to, when you get done hearing the bullets, when you come out of your house from hiding, you're hearing that BBC News and you're hearing things about what he's doing for himself, and then how he's connecting some of that to Liberia. It was an encouragement, like, man, at least one of us made it, right? We're still here struggling and hoping for our lives, but someone's out there carrying that torch for Liberia. I vividly remember I was on LU campus 95, I think, 95, when he came to the country, right? I still remember he was in some kind of a jeans jacket. I think it was 95. It must have been. So it was like, man, here he is, after years of hearing about him, since he left the country. And so he's an inspiration. So when some of us criticize, it's not that we don't like Mr. Weah as an individual. The difference between the soccer player and the president is stark. The way he has run the country over 4 years, if he ran his soccer career, we wouldn't even be mentioning his name as anything in world soccer, right? That's a difference. He produced for himself, for his teams, and I would say also for our country. So where we are now, leading towards 2023, I think the opposition, our message should be focused on solutions for the country. I think that's where we've fallen short as an opposition. We have not spent the time to put that message out there. Not that we don't have it. All right? The message is there, but the message has been drowned out by all the other things that we shouldn't be involved with as opposition. And I'm sure we're creeping to a place where we'll start speaking more on the issues. So my last point is this. Look, we are at a stage now in this country, if we make a mistake like we did in 2017, in my opinion, I think electing CDC was a mistake, right? If we make that same mistake in 2023, then we're done. We're done. The foundation I got going from high school in Liberia before the war, the generation that came after me, or that's after me, didn't have that foundation. They didn't also have the role models to look at. Not that everything before the war was perfect, but we had a lot more role models that we could look to in the community. The discipline we had growing up as young men and women, being disciplined by everybody in that neighborhood, right? The next generation here don't have it. And we're seeing these are the people that are going to lead this country towards something. And I don't believe Mr. Weah or President Weah can lay that foundation for them in a way that will benefit the country long term. That's just a fundamental belief of mine. Whether whoever is in the opposition, right, the key players in the opposition now without specific names, right, either one of those key players to me would do a better job than President Weah. That's my belief. I would support any one of those candidates over our sitting president.
I'm totally on
Thank
that
you.
side with
Good night,
you.
gentlemen. We appreciate your time here with us tonight. Wonderful conversation. Sorry we didn't go live. It was going to be crazy here on Facebook tonight, but we'll follow the program. We can come back here on other issues. I thought I heard some very good points here.
Yeah, selling
Constance,
points. Yeah.
Dean, Philip, great conversation tonight. We look forward to another time. Thank you so much for availing yourself.
Always a
We'll reach out
pleasure.
to you again.
It's
Thank you,
always
guys.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
we'll reach out
Thanks,
to you
guys,
again.
for coming.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, thank you
so
for
much.
coming. It was
Thank
a
you,
pleasure.
Madam Chair,
Reverend,
thanks a lot.
Mr. Suah, Mr. Wilson, thank you for coming.
Always a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Mhm.
Well, 9 o'clock, my man. Let's call it a night.
Yeah.
We'll be back here on Friday. Hopefully, as I said, we'll have the co-author or one of the authors of the trending news regarding the book on President Weah
Yeah.
and his in the portion of his private life rather in chapter 13. So we'll follow up and get that arranged and then hopefully get that conversation going. But
Sure.
again, hopefully that Facebook will remedy the situation. We just have to be careful with how we,
Appreciate
share
it.
things. It was just a comedy, I'll call it, and then they took it out of context because the kid was, I believe, naked. The little young man who was.
Yeah.
folks-
Is that the young man who said he was
yeah,
doing the other?
yeah. And
Okay.
unfortunately,
That's
they-
unfortunate.
they
Yeah.
touched- yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, Moses, have a
Mhm.
good night.
Okay. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
We say thank you for being there with us tonight. Unfortunately, we couldn't go live on Facebook, but however, we'll be back here Friday, God's willing, with another important edition for Volcano Shelton here saying good night from the Issues Room.